I guess we can all say confidently Adams here with me, along with Robin Biro, Boyd Matheson, and Hugo Gurdon. She did a pretty good job dealing with that.
I think she did a brilliant job. She deflected. She stood up for all of us as Americans, certainly for her president, and for a State Department that is trying to juggle a lot of balls. Yeah, well done, Heather.
You know, Hugo, you made the point earlier, and I think that this is a very good one, that his language wasn't as over the top as the media and the left have tried to present it to be. Give us that historical perspective with President Truman.
Yeah, President Truman, when he made the announcement of the dropping of the Hiroshima bomb, used, and I'm quoting from memory here, he said he threatened Japan with a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which the earth has not seen, which, apart from the alliteration of rain of ruin rather than fire and fury, is virtually the same thing that the president said. And I think that we've just got into the habit of, I mean, there was a reporter on that briefing with the State Department just now talking about good cop, bad cop. But we've just got into the habit of having good cop, and another few good cops. And we have not had the bad cops saying, you know, look, shape up because we're serious here. And, you know, I was a reporter in Korea 25 years ago when former President Carter was there hijacking President Clinton's national security policy. And I remember we were all there in Seoul watching President Carter on a sort of pleasure cruise on a river with Kim Jong-un's grandfather, Kim Il-sung, and he came back and he had some kind of a deal, and he stood in the gardens of the embassy in Seoul, and we asked him, well, why he had any reason to believe that that Kim Il-sung was telling the truth. And he said it was a cardinal statement of naivety in national security policy. He said, well, if we don't think he's going to keep to the deal, then I'd have to believe that he was just lying to me. And this is a regime that has been lying to the world and to its own people for 3 or 4 generations. So, you know, it's time for America to be tough with them and to state things really forcefully.
That said, now that we've said what we've said, now that the president has talked about this fury, we need to mean what we say, Boyd, so we don't have a situation as in the red line with Syria, etc. Not that that would happen, but we are now out there, and we have made it clear that we're not going to tolerate North Korea. So does that mean we're going to have to back it up?
I think we do need to back it up, but I think we've needed to back it up for about 25 years now. I mean, it's the ultimate in, you know, after all is said and done, more is said than done. You mentioned the bright red line. So if President Trump had come out and stood in front of the podium and the flags and said, we're putting a bright red line, where would the media have taken that? Because the important thing is not just what the words we're using now, but what is the policy, and then what is the strategy to back up that policy strategy in the end. I did think Heather did a brilliant job in terms of moving through that and really getting to the heart of the matter, which is let's make sure we're protecting the American people. Let's make sure we're looking out for our allies in the region in South Korea and in Japan. And that's not about the words. It's about the policy and then what we are willing to do. We got to stop cowering in the corner. We are the world superpower. We need to act that way. It doesn't mean we need to go in guns a-blazing, but we need to say things, we need to mean things, and then we need to follow up.
Well, I guess that's where I'm going. Where do we follow up? How do we follow up? What does that mean, Boyd? We just heard from Gordon Chang. There are a whole bunch of things we could be doing that we aren't doing. We heard earlier from Ambassador Bolton, and we're talking on the economic sanctions side, Ambassador Bolton saying, and he doesn't really think they work because China doesn't bother to enforce them. Gordon Chang making the point that we got to make China enforce them. We're kind of going around in circles here, but none of us actually wants to see military action there because that's possibly going to mean a whole lot of casualties. So before we get to that stage. Before we get to that stage, is that Robin?
Yes, that's me, Trish. I would love to hop in here.
Please do. I mean, before we get to that stage, don't we need them to back off? Don't we need China to be more instrumental in making sure they back off?
Yes, and I want to give credit where it's due. Nikki Haley did a masterful job yesterday with China, and I'm so pleased with her selection for ambassador to the UN. She's done a brilliant job. I grew up in South Carolina, so I saw what she did as governor, and I'm really happy with the job that she's doing. I do want to say that, you know, I wear my scroll right here. I'm an Army Ranger veteran from the 75th Ranger Regiment. So obviously, Trish, just to humanize this, I'm concerned about my brothers and sisters in arms. I want to point out that North Korea threatened Guam. 30% of Guam is occupied by a military base. So, you know, I just want what my concern is. I just want the president to start. You know, he's been sitting out from some of these security briefings. I would like for him to take a greater role in sitting through those, because he's frankly only got 7 months.
Okay, so you're going to criticize his rhetoric again, Robin? You know,
not rhetoric.
No,
not rhetoric.
No. Let me jump in here. You have the UN Security Council, right, that had basically all decided, and I'm including China and Russia in this. You can give all the credit to Nikki Haley, whatever you want, but the point is they all agree on one thing: this cannot be allowed. Okay, so there's agreement on that, which I would point out gives us some cover if they really tempt us. In other words, this is heading for a scenario that nobody wants to see. But how is it that you can sit there and tell me the president shouldn't tell them that they got to watch themselves?
No, Trish, to use your own words, this is our last resort. Those in the business of war understand that the military backs up diplomacy. So we will use war as a last resort. We have the resources.
And what is wrong with saying that, Robin? What is wrong with telling the crazy guy who's made all kinds of accusations on his own that we are there ready to strike?
I have no problem with the president's words, Trish. What I have a problem with is him specifically sitting out from these security briefings and from not listening to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And we know this for a fact.
You have no problem with the president's words. That's not what you've done. The entire show you've been going on about how you didn't like the president's words, Robin. Now you're telling me you don't have a problem with them.
I said earlier that he met strong language with strong language. Well, also what I said was that he's not doing the job that we need him to do, which is to go to these security briefings and to talk with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And we know that
I think you've heard from everyone involved a very consistent message, a message that this is not going to be tolerated. And however you want to say that, however strongly it needs to be said, so be it. Adam Johnson, quickly, the market off 74 points. Do you, I mean, put some perspective on it for us very quickly, because 74 is not a whole lot.
The market is taking this beautifully in stride. You would expect the market to be down on a day when you're having news headlines like this. You would expect gold to be up. All that's happening, but it's taking it in stride because we have earnings and employment in this country. That is the story that is driving the stock market.
All right, well, so the economy's still good. I'm very happy. You're very happy. We're all very happy, but this is a situation that needs to get resolved, and rhetoric may play a role.